Okay. Full disclaimer, this is about to be a very bigoted conversation. All right. So if bigotry isn't your cup of tea, then you can skip this episode. But we're going to talk about it because it is becoming a thing. It's all on the news and it's affecting people's lives, even if they're not a part of it. It's affecting our lives. So, okay, so boom. Trans people, transing kids. Okay. So basically, let me start with this. Mm-hmm. You're a father, right?
Right.
Let's if your child, do you have a son or daughter?
Son.
A son. If your son wanted to transition, quote unquote, to a female before the age of 18, how would you feel about that?
Nah, I would deeply question where he's getting this from, because before 18, you're still developing. You're still figuring out who you are.
Right.
You're still experiencing life as whatever you were born as, Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, if my son comes to me at 12, says, I think I want to be a girl from now on. No, you don't know what it's like to be a girl in 6 years. I mean, you're a boy at 12. What girls are going through at 12, it's not happening.
No, I completely agree. Like you just found out Santa Claus wasn't real 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
And that's not to minimize, okay? I don't want to minimize other people's experiences. But I feel like there does need to be an adult in the room. For instance, I don't necessarily get the logic behind under the age of 18, you can't get a tattoo, right? Mm-hmm. Which is permanent. You can't smoke cigarettes.
Can't drink.
You can't drink. You can't buy a gun. You can't do a lot of shit. You can't have sex.
Right.
You cannot have sex even, but you can determine your sex. I just kind of feel like right now it's a heated discussion because I feel like a lot of people don't really know how to go about it in a way like you can be an adult and just like talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like people really do need to talk about it because, okay, if you're part of the silent majority, your silence is consent. These days, silence is consent. So if you're too pussy to speak up,
right.
Don't be mad. Don't be mad when you basically forfeited your parental rights to the loud ones. You know what I mean?
You let it happen.
You let it happen because you were too scared of the mob. You were too pussy to speak up and say, nah. Listen, once they're 18, whatever the fuck they want to do. They want to chop it off. They want to add on whatever they want to do. Just not under my roof. Just not under my dime. And I feel like that is the majority stance. But here's the thing. There's a minority that is speaking so loud. And then there's toxic people that are around them that are being the megaphone speaking for that community.
Right.
That is adding to this hysteria.
Listen, I think you have to be mentally capable of making that decision. Right? Like I said, my son is 6 now. Anytime between 6 and 18 to 21, whatever, when he's experienced what he has to experience growing up, you make that decision.
Right.
But I'm not going to sign off knowing that you're making that's a heavy. That's the same reason why you can't vote for president when you're 12, right? It's the same reason why you cannot go out and buy a gun. You can't drink at 17.
You can't make decisions.
Right? There are certain decisions that are heavier than you think it is.
Right.
And there's a reason why they hold off on certain things until you are more mature.
And another thing that's kind of scary that a lot of people don't want to talk about is, say you are one of these parents, right? That puts your kid on puberty blockers or whatever. And what if your kid at 18, 19 says, no, that's not, I was confused at the time or whatever the case may be. And now they look at you like, yo, weren't you the parent? Weren't you the adult?
Listen, man, and I saw this happening years ago, and I'll pinpoint it to this. Some people might call me crazy. Dance moms.
Dance moms. Oh, the ones that shook their ass.
Or pageant moms.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you take your kid and your daughter is 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And you're making her go for Miss USA at kindergarten or whatever bullshit.
Yeah.
And you take their life and you run it through that gauntlet.
Yeah.
You are now imposing your will on that child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The child now grows up. Is that what that child specifically wanted? Did you allow that child to have a childhood?
Yeah.
Or did you impose your will and what you want
For your selfish...
your selfish reasons on that child?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it just snowballs from there. Because now, okay, I can make that decision for my child. I can put her in a pageant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can make my son want to do like, join the swim team, be the fastest swimmer, whatever. And I'm going to force him down that route. I'm going to Michael Jackson this kid.
Right,
you know?
right.
Until,
Tailor him to what? Yeah,
until whatever it is. And then now you're taken to the point of sexuality.
Yeah.
You know? Like, kids do not understand sexuality.
They're still building what
They're
reality
still
is, period.
Exactly.
Like you're think about what you thought you knew at 12. You're still building the fundamentals of what reality even is,
Right.
to begin with, you know? Another part of this movement that is worrisome to me is I know that people are very susceptible and they're very vulnerable. People's minds could be hijacked.
Easily.
And they could be influenced by their environment, right? Mm-hmm. So when I look at this new phenomena, now every kid is trans or every kid is non-binary or every kid is gay now, right? Mm-hmm. So when I see this happening now, I have to ask myself, is this a genuine phenomenon or is this a fad? Is this a hysteria of the time? Because, and somebody would say, well, why do you think that? Well, here's the thing. Everyone knows that being a kid and kids can be really fucking mean, right? And school is miserable if you're being bullied all the time, right?
Of course.
But if you come out as quote unquote gay, as trans, as non-binary, as queer, whatever, you all of a sudden you're a protected class. You have the umbrella of protection. You're now all of a sudden more interesting as a person. You're spicy, you're cool, and nobody could really make fun of you, right? So if you're a kid, doesn't that look good? Isn't that enticing that you can go through school and not be criticized and everybody has to play along to your fantasy and you never have to experience criticism?
I don't think. I mean, that would be one way out if you want to take stop bullying me, because of what I am, whatever. And to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I'm still an advocate for bullying. I think it builds character. I was bullied.
Yeah.
And then I probably did some bullying in my own, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just a way of life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And as far as being part of the LGBTQ, forgive me, I forget the rest of the letters.
Yeah, there's
no
a lot.
Disrespect, whatever. It's just if being protected as that is cool because there's been homosexuality from way back when in history, the Roman days, whatever.
We all seen Troy.
Yeah, exactly. Caligula, we know what's going on. So is it part of human nature?
Yes.
Is it okay? Cool. Do you want to beat on them for it? Is that the right thing to do?
No.
Okay, so I understand as far as doing that, but now taking that concept and running with it now. Taking that set. Okay, now we're gonna start shouting everything in here so we could get away with it. People don't want to be on the wrong side of history. You want to be progressive. You want to move forward. You want to move society forward. Yes, but there is a level between being progressive and then being, like you said, gullible, influenced.
Right.
You don't want to be labeled as a hater or anti this or anti that. So you allow certain shit to go on.
Yes.
But as far as influencing, as a parent telling their 5-year-old, 6-year-old boy, no, actually you're a girl or whatever, or hormone blockers and stuff like that. No, that's not progressive. That's not moving society forward. That is inhumane. And let kids be kids.
Let kids be kids, man. After 18, that's a different
up,
story. Now we're talking about a different thing. After 18, that's different. Kids, that's a whole different ball game, right? Because now, here's another fear of mine. Once you open the doors to saying children are in their right mind to choose their sex, because now there's a lot of fucking weirdos who are drooling at this, looking at their opportunity to come in and say, well, you're saying who can you love, but now what about what age can you love?
Bruh.
Love is, a lot of people might say, well, love is love. And if people think that that is bigoted or conspiratorial for me to think, just think about how far we went with certain movements to where we are right now, to even having this discussion where kids are getting pretty much mutilated and people are saying that it's okay. You know,
what are we doing, man? Look,
and I get, listen, and another thing, I understand why people want to be part of this, because every generation has like a movement, like a civil rights movement and stuff like that. But I feel like my mom used to say this all the time. You're a rebel without a cause. I feel like this generation is just rebels without a cause. Every generation that came before us, they had a real civil rights movement, real adult shit that they needed to overcome.
Right.
Our movements are more about privilege than they are about rights. I feel like people are getting confused what rights are and what privileges are. And I feel like we are living in such a first world thing right now. This is a very first world phenomenon. And I feel like we have come to the point in time of our civilization and our empire where we have reached our maximum capacity of first world privilege, that now we're just looking for shit because we have nothing else to fucking complain or look for. So now we're finding things. For instance, with this whole thing, right? People might say, well, this is part of human nature. Listen, go to the most natural human base places where humans are not influenced by technology, still very grounded with nature, the most natural human beings you can find, right? Why is it that you don't find that phenomenon there?
It's not exactly that's not something that they have to worry with. Listen, this is another thing. I kind of saw this coming. The beginning of the snowball, because trans people have been around for a while, transitioning from man to woman, woman to man. That was something that was a personal choice, right? Yeah. Now this whole thing blew up as a big argument, especially in politics and in society. Oh well, what bathroom do they use? If you were a man and now you're a woman, do you still use the men's room? Or do you still use women's room? Are you pre-op, post-op? If you're pre-op, but you identify as a woman, can you use the women's restroom if you have a penis? I don't want them using my bathroom. Like, we were arguing over bathroom stalls at one point. And then instead of cutting it there and being mature and being, listen, this is not that big of an issue, you know? There are other things to worry about. And then now we went from arguing over bathroom stalls to I'm going to give my kid hormone blockers, or it's like, when are we going to cut it out? Because we're sliding downhill. It's like we're looking for more and more issues that wasn't even really there. Right. Because that wasn't an issue 10 years ago. No. And this whole movement was still a thing. Yeah. So and just because you want to do something,
doesn't mean that it's inherently a right, and that if somebody says you can't do something, that means that it's phobic or that they're taking away your rights. For instance, Texas recently came out with a law that said that children cannot go and watch drag shows, right? First of all, it's a 21 and over bar, so why are kids there in the first place? Second of all, adults shouldn't be dancing for children sexually for money, even if there was no money.
In any capacity.
Children should not be seeing adults dance provocatively, period. There you go. You didn't have to even be gay. If I found out that my nephew or something, or my little brother, he had a field trip to a strip club, I would feel the exact same outrage that I would if it was a drag show.
They don't even have to take it to a strip club. A burlesque show, so something more artful, because they're not getting nude, but it's still that whole,
It's very sexual. Let's be honest.
Come on.
Let's be honest. Come on. I also think, because I have trans friends, right? So I also feel like we need to stop. We shouldn't get too carried away when you see things on the news and stuff like that, because people have to understand, oftentimes it's the small minority of the trans community that does think like this that are usually the loudest. But what's even more toxic than them are these super crazed woke people that are on the outside of that inner circle,
The fringe.
that just want their virtue signaling. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're virtue signaling. And then what ends up happening is that now the megaphone for this already fringe voice, and now everybody else feels like they're the bad guy if they're not on board. But here's the thing is that the media isn't giving the microphone to the rest of the community, right, that don't agree with this, that aren't on board with this. There are many gay and trans people that are very much against biological men competing against women. There are a lot of gay people that don't even associate themselves with the community,
Bruh.
because they understand that right now there is an inner rift even amongst that community, but we're only hearing from one voice from one side of the aisle.
Okay, all right. You brought up a good point just now. Okay. Biological men who transitioned into being a woman, and now they're competing against women. Recently, that high school kid, the dude who's now a girl, he's cleaning it up in the women's swim.
Oh, Leah Thomas. Thomas.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, when he was a dude,
He wasn't
was
that
trash.
good. Right.
He's a chick. Know what I mean? He's out there. He's cleaning up.
Yo.
This is something that now you have to deal with.
Right.
Because we opened this can of worms.
Right.
All right. Now we're allowing the kids to do it. So what do you think is going to happen?
And this is back to the beginning of the segment. I said that people take silence as consent. I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't want to rock the boat, that don't want to look like the bad guy. But here's the thing. You cannot afford to sit back and because if everybody just sits back because you're being bullied into silence, now that silence is consent. And now this is why we're here now. And now to turn the tide is going to take even more work than if you would have had just in the very beginning said no.
It's just sticky situation on top of, okay, all right, now, is it fair? Is
No.
it fair to have, if you were born biologically a boy and you would transition to a girl, to compete against women who were born biologically women?
No.
Okay, is it the opposite way around now? Now, women who transition into men and they want to compete against men, is that fair? Do you, like, saying no makes you the evil guy? I'm saying no, like, oh, why no? Why can't...
But you're saying no. You're saying no for the sake of the women, though. You're not saying no because you have a problem with that trans person. You're saying no because I don't want to see a woman that has busted her ass all through college, right? To all of a sudden get all her accomplishments stripped away because of an unfair advantage. And not only that, but trans men will never get a I know this is going to sound very bigoted. I'm sorry, but trans men will never beat biological men. So that's not even like a worry.
You know what's the next topic?
Maybe table tennis.
You know what's the next topic that's coming up out of this, right?
What?
Trans league.
Trans league.
Right?
I wouldn't mind
all
a
trans men compete against trans men, and then trans women compete against trans women. That's fair.
I mean, it's either that or like an open league where it's genderless.
Well, if it's open league, then you get the complaints, but that's not. If LeBron James became Leah James and went to the WNBA, we all know what's going to happen.
Yeah. You know what? Joanna Man. Remember that movie, Joanna Man? Yo, that movie was prophetic.
Way ahead of its time.
I'm surprised they haven't canceled Joanna Man yet.
Oh, no. We got to let that lie. If they was to make a reboot of Joanna Man,
yeah. No. Oh, you know why they wouldn't cancel Joanna Man? Because it's a black dude. You feel me?
Well, then, there you go.
Because the LGBTQ plus is like ally with like black communities.
Yeah.
So because it was like a black man doing it, it was like, well, we can't really attack our own.
Right. But, you know,
because they're within like woke ideology, there's a structure. There's a power levels. You feel me? And so you can't really go an attack against each other. You know what I mean?
He gets a pass. Juwanna Man gets a pass.
Juwanna Man gets a
Don't do
pass.
it, don't do it again.
Yeah, just don't do it again. Just don't do it again. With that being said, I just feel like everybody, this is a topic that can be spoken about in an adult way. I think that there needs to be, I don't like when I only hear one side of the aisle. I would love to hear more conservative gay voices speak up. I would like to hear more sane trans people speak up, because right now all we're hearing from is hypersexual gay people and weird trans stories, dancing for kids and all this stuff. And I don't think it's fair, because these people are making the community as a whole look bad. And I know that gay people are not a monolith and they don't all have the same views. And I feel like it's a big disservice from the media that they only give the microphone to one type of gay person or one type of trans person, and they neglect the vast spectrum that aren't even on board with this.
Listen, even in the media, it's very hard to follow, because it's what are you? Are you a CNN? Are you Fox? It's like education system. Like, let's take it out of being people itself. Let's talk about education, because it is a thing. It's something that is happening. You need to be aware of what it is. Okay, when do you bring it up? They're saying, okay, I don't want my child being taught about gay relationships. My child does not need to know that two men can get married or two women can get married. I don't want that. Okay, but it's happening. It's real. When do you bring it up? Oh, well, I don't want it in my kindergarten class. I don't want it in my fourth grade class. I don't want it in before high school. You got to wait till high school. Or that's something that's college. Gender studies is college. You do that. And, when do you, is it a taboo? Or is it not taboo? Is it something that we have to deal with as a person, as a society, or we just got to keep it hush?
I feel like there's such an easy solution to this, which is this. I remember when I was in school, sex ed, they needed consent forms. So wouldn't that be such a great solution? So if a school wanted to be more inclusive to the community, and they wanted to have a class within health class, I guess that's the only place it would be, right? You have to sign a consent form. And if your parents don't consent to that, then you wouldn't go. Just like when I was in school and we had sex ed. Because here's the thing. Parents have rights. Your teachers are not your fucking parents, right? So if your parent, but your
teachers are fucking teachers.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like now there's a lot of teachers who are crossing the line more and more now. That's what I don't like. I feel like it needs to be in check. Okay. They're bringing a lot of their own personal baggage into the classroom.
I would 100% agree. Do not, if it's not in the curriculum, don't teach it.
Right.
Do not bring your outside knowledge, your personal opinions, or whatever.
My kid should not know. My kid should not know who you voted for. My kid should not know who you're dating. My kid should not. My kid should not be coming home and telling me personal things about you. I should know nothing about you. My kid should know nothing about you, especially when it comes to that. I feel like we're not like the adults. We're the adults, and what's scary is that I feel like a lot of the same way I would feel about somebody who's super conservative, pushing like maybe Jesus onto kids. I feel the exact same way with transing the kids. Like, leave that shit alone. Leave their mind alone. You got a job to do, right? Teach them math. Teach them algebra. Teach them whatever you got to teach them. But leave your freaking baggage out. Because at the end of the day, these kids are not here to validate you. You're a freaking adult. If you want validation, go to a bar. Go get friends. Go get adult friends.
Exactly.
You shouldn't.
Have peers that you could have this conversation about. Don't download that on my child's hard drive.
Don't do that. Leave the kids alone.
The kids be kids, man.
We're doing a survey around the country on the way population handles themselves and speaks and deals with their friends and interact with their peers.